Listen to the court.
Do you ever do mediation in the room?
I don't even know like how to proceed now. But let's say I'm now irritated because I'm using the big L word. She's lazy. We've heard it right before. They are so lazy. They're not getting their work done. So I go to my work bestie, Nina. Okay, Nina does not work with her. Totally different department, but she and I are best friends. So I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna say, she did it again, she's not getting her work done, she is completely lazy, I'm pulling the weight, she does nothing, you know. And then what do I do with that interaction? I spread it. I spread it. She doesn't know her from Adam, and I just spread a rumor about her. And that will make its way around the office. Anybody play the game telephone when you were a kid? Stuff doesn't translate accurately. So my point is, thank you for being sort of an unwilling participant and for your surprise role. My point is one, I've created an additional problem because I'm spreading negativity within the office, but two, I have not addressed the individual that I'm having the true issue with, so nothing's going to change. Manage your frustrations. If you are frustrated with somebody, it takes 2 seconds to approach them and say, hey, you don't quite seem like yourself lately. Is everything okay? You don't have to go up to them and be like, could you quit being so lazy and get your work in on time? That is not an approach I would suggest. But I would suggest a basic conversation to the individual to check in with them. Because again, anybody sign up to make anybody's life harder today? Can I see a show of hands? Not anyone? If we operate under positive intent, I certainly, in my fight with my 4-year-old about pants this morning, did not think about how I can make other people's lives more difficult today. Most of us don't have that much free time. So if someone's behavior is outside of their norm, or unlike what they usually do, have a conversation with them. They might have something going on. Manage yourself, manage your frustrations, and don't write stories without facts attached to them. That is the death of a happy workplace, is writing a story. When we write stories, are they positive or negative about another person? Come on, I'm guilty too. They're negative. Historically, they're negative because, again, like I mentioned earlier, we write the worst possible case scenarios so we can play it out to be okay with what could possibly go wrong. There's so many layers here, but this is how this stuff spreads. It's like wildfire, so be mindful of this. Be mindful of these things and manage where you are at. Anybody else say anything about frustration? Be positive when you can. It's easy to focus on other people's flaws. It's hard to focus on what they do bring to the table, even if it is something small. Focus on that. Conflict management. I do bits and pieces of conflict management training consistently across all organizations. Why? Because we all have it. It's about managing it. Conflict in its truest form, I like to give folks definition, is basic at best, is a difference that prevents an agreement. That's, yeah. Now, conflict resolution does not mean an agreement comes to the table where both people are happy. Conflict management can be agree to disagree, as long as it is talked about. There are plenty of times when you're going to walk away from a situation and not see eye to eye with the other person, but at least y'all have put yourself out on the table and found a manageable solution, right? What does it all mean? So, conflict management gets a negative result because it taps into our vulnerabilities, which is giving and receiving feedback. Most of us want to be seen in a way that we are perceived as solid members, solid contributors of our team, of our families, and when we hear things that we could be doing better or different, that feels personal to us. Anybody feel personal about the job you do? Yeah, you wouldn't be doing it otherwise. So for somebody to give you feedback on it, that's going to ding a few spots within you. So, but if we manage it, we can improve ourselves and hopefully our interactions. But you have to check yourself in first. So conflict cannot be avoided, but it should be managed. I cannot tell you, there are times that organizations will call me in, and I vet trainings now. We didn't used to do that, but probably 10 years ago I started to flesh out the training request, because specifically one training topic in particular I will vet to make sure I'm not walking into a topic. Can you come in and do a team building? For what? I mean, what has gone on? Because why does a team need a team building? Sometimes we've had teams that have had loss. Sometimes we have teams that have had transition. I'm not coming in to do a team building because 2 10-year employees hate each other's guts and we're going to put a whole group of 30 through a team building, when everybody knows it's the 2 people sitting on the back opposite corners. No? That is not well received, okay? So conflict has to be managed. If it's not managed, it grows. That's unavoidable. It will grow. And it will spread to other departments, different areas. It will grow. It's all about communication. Good communication skills and fixing communication roadblocks equals conflict resolution. Like we said earlier, we've got some people who are more comfortable with conflict management in the past. What do you think that conflict management comfortability is based on? Experience. Personality is huge. You know, people who don't normally step up, and we would see this cross over into your family dynamic many oftentimes too. Like people who don't necessarily speak up, there's a people pleaser crowd who doesn't necessarily enjoy conflict too much. But personality and experience are going to be the 2 keys to conflict management. Common reactions, I hear this all the time. If I ignore it, it will go away. No, it won't. I already said that. It will stay. What's the big deal? Well, I don't know. That's individual specific, and if it continues to bother you, then that's something that should at least have a conversation about. Not my place. I struggle with this one. Well, what is your place? If you see it, if you experience it, it might not be your job to hold that person accountable, but you are well within your bounds to offer feedback. Okay? Just because it's not your employee, not your department, does not mean it's not your responsibility. Because if you witness something, it's okay to respectfully give feedback. It's also okay to plug into that other person's supervisor when appropriate. What other reasons do people avoid it? Conflict management.
If I deal with it, it'll get worse. If I say anything, it will get worse.
Retaliation. I hear that.
Someone else will handle it, drives me crazy.
Somebody else will take care of it. Again, who's got that much free time? And if you see something, you experience something, what purpose does it serve for you then to go back to another person to have them fix what you've experienced? Anybody else like it when you get feedback from a third party that got rerouted because one person didn't want to give it to you directly? It's happened to us all, right? Having that direct conversation can often diffuse the situation quicker. When you tap into another resource that wasn't present, that's going to fuel a fire, right? Because then the perception is, I've been being talked about. So, things to consider. Anybody else add to this?
What if you feel like you've addressed it already numerous times?
Then we
you
go
just
up.
give up, right? That's people's response to avoid it. I've already addressed it. I'm just going to give up.
So what can we say about that? You've addressed this individual's behaviors or their techniques multiple times, and then are you just done? Because this does happen. That's a great point. This does happen. What do you do? You have to go up. You have to go up. Because the reality, folks, is if it's affecting you, it's affecting other people. Even if the behavior traits are not being given or shown to other people, it's creating an environment at the workplace. There's a secondary trauma associated with that hostile kind of workplace. You know, it's like the idea, I have sometimes parents will come in and they're like, well, we're just gonna stay married until my kids are graduated. I hear that. Am I- Oh, okay. I was like, oh, did I move too much? I'm trying to say. It's a good idea in theory, but people still pick up on tension and turmoil. So that doesn't really serve a purpose. So in that situation, you have to go up. You have to go up or consult another supervisor, but likely you'll have to go up or tap into HR, I would assume, in that situation. But definitely don't not do anything, because that also secondarily acts as permission for the rest of the group. Well, they did it. They act like that. That does not translate well. Okay, so again, why we manage it poorly, personality, fear. The issue is not important. We want to be liked. I hear that one a lot too. I just want them to like me. I don't want problems. So to prevent conflict, communicate your feelings assertively, not aggressively. There is a difference. How do you know? Well, assertively communicating your feelings is typically when we've given ourselves a minute to calm down and decrease our emotional reaction to the situation. Our first reaction, 99.9% of the time, to a perceived negative situation is going to be based on your emotional response to it. Can we agree with that? I naturally do not go to the logical place to say, well, there's probably some purpose for them communicating with me this way, and he's probably interrupting me for a reason. Nope. I go to, what did he just do? And then you're calling out in front of all these people. Oh, okay. You know, and then so I have to take a minute. I gotta check myself in. The difference between the two is between your emotional and logical responses. If you are feeling emotional, and you know this, how do you know you're feeling emotional? Heart rate, you're in your stomach, maybe your legs shaking a bit, you know, the physical reaction. If that's where you're living at, that's not a good time to have conversation. Give yourself time and space. This is gonna allow for the emotional response to come down, one, and two, it's gonna allow for you to know, like, what's this really about for me? Do I feel like they were being disrespectful to me? Do I feel like this is a true issue? And then you can kind of process what your reaction is. If you are still bothered by the interaction 24 to 48 hours later, and your emotional response has declined, go back and have a conversation with that person.
Is it ever appropriate to give immediate feedback if someone is blatantly rude, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, you gotta know yourself and where you're at, because you can't, we don't want the content to get lost in the delivery. You know, anybody have siblings? Your sibling's been annoying you for roughly 4 hours, right? They're obnoxious, they're younger, and they're just continuing to like annoy you for the day. Finally, you get to the point where you've ignored 4 hours, and what do? You throw a remote control at them. I'm just making, I don't know. Who are mom and dad mad at?
You.
Because you had a poor response to what was being done. I don't want the focus to shift to you as the person who responded poorly versus the person having the poor behavior. Does that make sense? See, that's that control element you have to know about yourself, because if you shift it, then all of a sudden you're the one who's out of the focus. So you definitely can, and you definitely should cut it off if there's a level of disrespect occurring, but do it in a way that your content is intact. If you don't feel like you can, put a pause on it. Because there's nothing wrong with a delayed response or a revisited response, as long as it's had. Everybody's opinions don't have to align. You don't have to force compliance. You don't have to like the people around you. HR usually looks at me like I'm crazy when I say that. But you do have to respect people. That is the foundation. One of the foundations of a strong workplace is the level of respect. You don't have to like people. And you're not going to like all people, because again, the personality factor shifts how we feel about individuals. but you do have to respect them. Avoid jumping to conclusions. This is again a very natural response to folks. Anybody a conspiracy theorist in the room? Yes, all of us. I mean, and many of us can do it in a very, I think I've perfected mine to roughly 18 seconds. My boss, who's now since retired, Allison, I used to do marketing and promotions for Encompass years ago, probably I don't even know how long ago. So I sent monthly promotions out to all of our organizations, and I've been sending to this one particular person for probably, I don't know, years. And she, her boss, emailed me and she said, hey Jessie, can you please make sure you're sending to so-and-so? And I looked at the name and I was like, I have been for like years. But I didn't say that because you can't really go back to this person and say, I don't know what she's doing with it. So naturally, like the rest of you would have done, I told myself what was happening in that situation. She was not handing out the monthly promotions, and then she blamed me for not sending it to her. So what do? I go to my boss's office because she has to help me with this situation. I don't even know. I'm beside myself. I need you to understand the story took place in roughly 4 months. So I go to my boss's office, and I lay this story out for her because I know what's going on. I know that this woman is shirking her responsibility and is not blaming me for it to the VP, and now the VP's emailing me, so I'm like, I don't even know what you want me to do with this. And my boss, she knows I'm a little crazy, right? She gets it, it's been years. So she listened to me talk. She's very calm, which is sort of frustrating because engage. Get there with me. And she says to me, Jessie, did you ask if they were checking their spam folders? No, I didn't. I just told you what was happening. I'm not kidding, right? Why? Then I'm frustrated with her because she's not on my team. So I walk back to my office. She knows I tell that story. I walk into my office and I look at my computer, and I'm not kidding you. There was an email that said, please disregard. Our spam was picking it up. She's been getting them the whole time. I'm like, oh, well. I didn't tell my boss that though because I wanted. I was right. But I bring that, I like to throw myself under the bus because I'm human and I do it. But yeah, like don't jump to a conclusion. You don't want people jumping to conclusions about you. Assume positive intention. Listen without interrupting. Oh yeah. You gotta listen without interrupting. You can listen and know that you completely disagree with every morsel that is coming out of that individual's mouth. And you can poke holes through their entire argument from start to finish. But you gotta listen without interrupting because that is a respectful and honorable thing to do to that person. And folks, what they are saying, no matter what it is, feels like it is true to them. In the same way that when we talk, what comes out of our mouth feels like it's true to us. So give folks the same courtesy that you would want them to extend to you. When angry, separate yourself. Attack the problem, not the person. Nobody should leave feeling personally attacked. Anybody heard of the sandwich philosophy? Yes, we all have. You start with a positive. In the middle, you kind of offer some professional suggestions to how it might be possible to improve, and then you close with another positive, and you sandwich it in like that. Nobody should leave a conversation with another person feeling like they are attacked, or they had, their self and their personality or their work abilities on a personal platter. Folks are doing the very best they can with the resources they have available to them, and that is different for all of us. You see that in the families you work with, but you'll see that in your coworkers as well. Okay, when we understand conflict, we can preserve our relationships, improve our productivity, reduce your stress. For me, the biggest business case is you gotta reduce your stress. You have a stressful job in general. Don't layer it. Reduce it and manage it. The more you practice conflict resolution, you're never gonna feel like 100%, like, wow, I'm looking forward to this conversation today. Or at least that's not been my experience. It's not rainbows and bunnies all of the time. But you'll start to understand how you interact in those moments and what your strengths are and what you want to focus on when delivering the feedback.